Following video is brought to you by BSEN, Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
Welcome to the Kings of Causeway podcast, part of the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Pat Burke, joined as always by Ryan Coffey. Ryan, we knew it was going to happen. We knew we weren't going to go 16-0. That was never going to be how it went, but this was a frustrating loss for the boys. Am I getting ahead of myself?
No, it was definitely frustrating. I wouldn't say it was our best game and definitely not dominating like the last game, but lots of opportunities to kind of steal one here and, put them down 2-0, and we had our chances. Yeah, I mean, definitely one that got away from us. One we could have easily won. I'd almost rather get blown out 5-2 and get a wake-up call or something like that and turn the streak going into 3, but that's a tough one to lose with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about stealing one and how like, oh, wait, maybe we could have stolen. Honestly, I feel like, well, Toronto, yes, definitely carried the play for a good chunk of time as far as, raw possession numbers might suggest. Some fluke bounces here, there, whatever it might be. The fact of the matter is there was less than 7 minutes to go. It was a 2-2 game, and a little lapse in concentration on the defense combined with an utter I don't give a flying fuck on offense. It was so frustrating to watch, especially when we were down, pushing, just watching I don't know how else to describe it other than nobody wanted to seize the game in the moment. Those are the moments that generational talents, that captains, that leaders of men say, I want the moment. How many times do we see it with a Tom Brady, with a David Ortiz? That was like, hey, put me up 2 outs, bottom of the 14th against Flash Gordon, and David Ortiz is going to rip a game-winning single and bring in Johnny Damon from second base to send us to New York. The big men show up in big moments. It looked like everybody was so desperate to give the moment to somebody else that the moment just never had an opportunity to come. I mean, maybe Zaka there at the end, but to me, nobody wanted to step up and say, I'll do this.
No, nothing highlights what you just said more than it stands out. But Brad Marchand getting the puck in the slot, and a normal Brad Marchand would figure out how to rip that top corner. He's not looking for a rebound to Geeky or a tip from Geeky. Like that's where you need to shoot Brad Marchand. And I mean, that it's just only one play. I don't think that highlights the entire night, but it calls out everything you just said. It's like if the captain doesn't even want to be the guy that scores this game, game winner, game tire, then what are we doing? I will say, I feel like, to be honest, there were half the Bruins that were there that wanted that moment and wanted to do it big. Didn't transpire, and then there were others I definitely could call out, for lack of play. might be interesting for us to do maybe a sin bin and throw people the stars in some of these playoff games, because it was a very clear kind of line tonight of people that want to show up and people that weren't ready to play from my eyes.
I agree. And I mean, so let's take it back. Let's take it back to period number one. A much more controlled opening 10 minutes, let's say, obviously getting a goal from a Johnny Beecher, in 2 minutes in game one is going to set a tone a certain way that neither side kind of had that this time around. It was much more honestly what I thought game one was going to be like, of a lot of like, hey, let's just feel it out, be extra secure, not make too many mistakes, just make sure we're getting the pucks in deep, we're getting our line changes clean, yada, yada, yada. But for me, I feel like that was a wasted opportunity. At the start of the game, the Garden is going to be as loud as it's going to be. And to kind of let Toronto off the hook, a Toronto team that to me was trying to force relaxed and calm. And, PK Subich was saying as they were going out on the ice, patting themselves on the back for reading the coach's report of who was going to lead the Bruins out. Oh, Toronto looks loose. Toronto looks relaxed. Their smiles said relaxed. Their eyeballs said fuck. If we go down early here, we are in trouble. And instead of pouncing on that, we kind of let them ease their way into the game. To me, as evidenced by, we kind of controlled that first 10 minutes without actually doing much. And then for the next period and a half, it was not in our control.
Yeah, and I'm not bringing this up because I want to go here now. We'll talk about this at some point on the pod, but I think I thought we actually did take it to him. I thought we brought the physicality from the jump. I felt like our legs were moving immediately. Like you said, those first 10 minutes, we didn't score, but I felt like we were carrying the play and we were doing what you'd want to see us do, right? We're up a game, go in there, just beat their heads in, throw as many hits as you can, make them feel uncomfortable. So I feel like we came out with the right approach. And I know I texted you. I thought there were 1 to 3 calls, which in a playoff game, 10 minutes into a game, as a ref, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't call all 3. However, one or two of those calls by the refs, I feel like just calling out the first one I saw, Bertuzzi on that, it was like a drop pass to DeBrusk. Bertuzzi just bear hugged him.
Mugged him in Central Park.
It didn't turn into a scoring chance purely because DeBrusk, it would have been a 2-on-1, but DeBrusk got held. So that set the tone for me for the refs. I think I have a lot of opinions about them later, but I do think we came out the right way. To your point, I think we could have really laid the dagger and, drove it home with a goal or two in those first 10 minutes, but I wasn't unhappy with how we came out. It was that, to your point, the next 45 minutes, the period and a half, maybe 2 full periods that we fell apart. We were not carrying play.
Yeah. At the beginning of that, at that 45-minute stretch where it was just really kind of bad, or maybe we'll call it a 30-minute game time stretch where it was just really bad. McCabe takes an absolutely boneheaded penalty. The whistle's gone. The play's over. Nothing's happening. Comes in with a flying cross check. We get a power play. Honestly, I felt like they had no choice but to give it to us. They were, we'll address this later on.
After that.
We'll address this later on, but they were looking for any reason not to do something like that, but they couldn't at that point. So we end up on the power play and, take advantage of some mental fragility on Toronto's part when it comes to who is responsible for clearing a puck. We bury a goal. That's awesome. Go down and then have an absolute fluker of a careening puck off the stanchion that just presents it in a way that, we could talk about a couple swings and misses on as soon as that puck hits the ground, but honestly, I don't think anybody in black and gold can be to blame for the way that just kind of fell and happened.
That's a fluke.
But nonetheless, it was 1-1 14 seconds later.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like, even though we'll eventually talk about going up 2-1, it kind of felt like at that point it was just going to be an even game no matter what from then on. It was one of those no matter what we do, we're going to end up just being tied here.
Yeah, and it was shit luck. I mean, you don't see that often. For those locals, there's boards at the Rodman Arena in Walpole that every time it goes into the corner, I'm not talking the stanchion, the boards, it kicks out like it's a one-time pass. So that's what you deal with in men's league, but not at the TD Garden. There were a couple weird bounces tonight. That first one was by far the worst.
Yeah, there were a couple.
It was by far the worst, and I will say this: it didn't give us a chance to get momentum. Right, 14 seconds after our goal, we couldn't even get we didn't have a chance to kind of put our foot on their throats and just kind of take it to them. However, I felt like we did recover well from that, from letting them get in. Yes, it felt like, hey, that made it like, hey, whatever we do tonight, this is going to be a close one. But then we recovered from there, and I just I don't want to say it's a coincidence, but it is probably something to call out. Adam Peake left right around when I noticed our play started to drop off, and we'll get to the Tavares goal, but that's a shift that Adam Peake would have been out there, and instead it was Kevin Shattenkirk. So again, all in all, game we could have won, but there were a couple things that just did not go our way tonight, all around. That's for sure.
Yeah, we and that first, a communication breakdown in Toronto's end leads to an offensive zone faceoff, which you rightly pointed out and texted me right away. I was like, oh my God, did we just do a set play that just came off well? We sure did. The Leafs fell asleep a little bit there with 13 and a half seconds left. We bury one. Could have gone one of two ways. Could have been all right, now we're going to come out and steamroll you, or could have been it came too late in the period to establish any momentum, and the second period is going to start 0-0 essentially. Unfortunately for the Bruins, who were leading at the time, it came out as hey, we're back to 0-0. And the more and more that second period went on, the more and more I started thinking like, all right, if we just tie the second half of this game, we'll escape with a win. But it really started feeling like the ice was heavily tipped in Toronto's favor. I know the shot numbers at the end of the game look marginally respectable, but it doesn't pass the eye test. But it doesn't pass the eye test. Like I'm sorry. Linus Ullmark was making some incredible saves, and a lot of the saves that Samsonov was making were 45-footers. Poor shot selection. Just I don't know what to do. I guess I'll shoot it. It was a tough look, I thought.
No, 100%. You think, hey, Pasta gets that one at the very end of the period. You're like, here's our second chance to put our foot on their throat. Doesn't happen. I mean, there were so many opportunities tonight where we could have put them away, and I'd just say, you always look back at a series. I doubt this is going to be the only one that we look back at this, but a lot of times you go, oh, if we could just get that one goal, or this was a turning point. I think that was a turning point, right? Not finishing them or making it 3-1 after Pasta gets that. We should have looked at that first period like, bam, that was a gift that we just scored that. Coming in 2-1, that's where we really should have laid it down. To your point, I feel like the ice tilted. Kind of once the game went on 2-2 for a while there, it started to feel like, all right, Toronto's starting to get momentum.
Yep, definitely the ice started tilting, and I do want to call out, a good point by you that we lost, Eddie Peake in the middle there. It looks like it was a puck off the hand, which honestly could go one of three ways. Could be a bruise, could be a break, could be a sprain. Two of those three aren't great. Regardless, he was in pain and injured enough that he couldn't come back. So I don't necessarily want to say that this is all necessarily on the coaching staff, but for me, when the floodgates are opening at one direction, you got to do something. before it's too late. You know, I suppose one could argue, let's just try and white knuckle it out and hold on at what we've got right now. But I think it was pretty clear by like the 12-minute mark in the second period that Toronto was going to get a couple of prime opportunities. And they're such a potent offense. They're not going to blow a couple of opportunities. This to me was 100%. Not if that had happened with 7 minutes to go in the game, sure, white knuckle it out, try and trust and throw a patchwork quilt at it to get it through. But with a full half a game remaining, changes needed to be made there. And I think Montgomery absolutely screwed the pooch here. And then, you know, him looking around late on as he's drawing up plays for an absolutely putrid power play where we changed everything that had been working about earlier power plays. They're just like, nope, you know what? We're going to outsmart it. We're going to do something different. That backfired.
Yeah, I mean, Pete going out definitely hurts, but I think, to your point, the coaching – I'm just one standout to me was the fact that they changed the power play at the end, like you said. I feel like so we're in the first period, and Jack Edwards, when Geeky scored the goal, it looked like, oh, that's Pasternak over there with the one-timer, right? He even messed up and said, that's David Pasternak. And I saw that, and I go, that's actually interesting. I kind of like that he's mixing up the power play early. What he did at the end, though, is kept it mixed up. I don't know if I would have done that. I would have. You know, when you need a game winner, I think you go back to your standard power play, the McAvoy, the Pasta, the Marchand, the DeBrusque, I mean, Lindholm, whoever it may be. I don't really like them switching up the power play for that last power play that we got there. I feel like that's one where you just give it to the veterans and let them gut it out there at the end. It's interesting. I do want to talk about defense really quickly because I feel like Pete going out, it made it pretty clear that we're missing a big body like that because I felt like Carlo played really well.
Agreed.
I think Lindholm and McAvoy had some slip ups. They were
late on. McAvoy had some mental mistakes, some running before he catches the pass type issues that were late that are unfortunately a hallmark of his game. If we're honest, like. He too often for me tries to do too much too early, instead of possessing the puck through the neutral zone and getting it in, tries to make a crazy pass, just ends up missing it. The puck goes behind him, bounces off the boards. Toronto kicks it back in, another 15 seconds off the clock. That happened a couple of times late. But to your point, and who would have thought at the trade deadline that Andrew Peeke would be like, hey, this, like having him not there is going to screw with the chemistry of this Bruins team. It has. Let's say maybe he's out the next game at the very least, and a Parker Weatherspoon comes in. Do you think it's more of a we were missing Peeke himself there late, or more we were missing the sixth defenseman?
I think it was both. I think it was amplified where we were missing Peeke, and then also you could see they were starting to get fatigued. I feel like Carlo played an exceptional game. He's our big body, but on the PK, Peeke was missing. And I will say I think Shattenkirk to me is a guy that's like, I'd say he's our number 6. He's our guy that it's like he's not really going to do too much wrong. He's not going to really do too much right. But like when the game is on the line, a PK that's like not really the guy I want out there.
You don't want. I mean,
you saw it. Tavares, like that's a shot that Peake's probably blocking or getting a stick on.
Blocking
that shot from Tavares. I mean, granted to him, he used the screen the right way. He should as a shooter. But from a defensive aspect, I feel like if that was Peeke or anyone else, probably would have had enough legs or stick on that puck to not even get it off. So I think it amplified, the areas we were missing Peeke, plus the fatigue carried over to the end of the game for sure.
Agreed. And something that I noticed when they showed the replay of like Tavares spinning and shooting and Checker just not quite getting there, his face told me
he's not going to lay it.
Eight years ago, he gets in front of that.
I was just going to say,
he knows what he knows where he wanted to be and what he wanted to do. His body just can't get there anymore. And that's an unfortunate limitation that a lot of teams are dealing with across a lot of different stars. So I'm not trying to pull a woe is me card on that. A lot of teams are dealing with that, but he knew that could have been a blocked shot into the sideboards. That could have been a deflection that went somewhere else. He knew it. His face screamed. Younger me had that.
100%.
Younger me knew what was coming.
You nailed it. I was sitting there thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, and this is no disrespect to Shattenkirk. He's getting older.
No, not at all.
He would have made that play for the majority of his career, but you could tell by the way it happened. Like he's just not in a position to like lay out his body like that anymore,
right?
And kind of make a sacrifice.
The fast twitch muscles just aren't quite there anymore.
Which brings up I don't know. Maybe the coaches do make a change. Maybe this is where we look to get some experience from a Wotherspoon or a Lorai. I mean, it's
why not both? Why not both? Why not bring in one for Peak and one for Shattenkirk?
And the reason I bring up the Peak thing too is I'm a little worried about. I felt like Grizzly got pushed around tonight, and so my concern with the Wotherspoon is he's similar size as Grizzly.
Yep.
We have two of those. You'd have to pair them with some bigger guys. Who does that leave? Shattenkirk's not really a bigger guy.
Nope.
So I'd almost lean toward Lorai if we are going to bring one of the two. I mean, both is fine with me.
I'd rather see both. And because you're right, the Grizzly kind of the physically, he did kind of get a little punked tonight.
Yeah.
In a couple of instances. And I think he's a player that maybe doesn't have the I don't know any better confidence anymore. He shouldn't. He's a veteran for all intents and purposes. He's a veteran. But we see sometimes these rookies they don't know any better, and so they just I'll go toe to toe with Johnny Beecher game 1. In his little scrum, he happens to be on the ice with Austin Matthews, who is by far his technical superior. Austin Matthews is a heck of a better talented player than Johnny Beecher ever could dream to be. But Johnny Beecher doesn't know any better. He's just no, fuck you, man. You want to go? All right, let's belly up a little bit. Whereas a Grizzly, when he kind of gets punked, he just kind of knows I'm the smallest guy out here. I'll find some other way to contribute maybe. The problem is I don't think he has the game speed or the skill right now to necessarily overcompensate for that. Whereas a Mason Lorai or a Parker Wotherspoon getting bumped a little bit, his reaction is probably going to be who do you think you are? I don't know. I've never played against you. And it's well, yeah, you haven't played against him because you're brand new, Jack. But the mentality could be yeah, I'm not scared of you. I'm not intimidated by you. I don't really healthy respect or professional respect is one thing, but in my opinion, in the playoffs, there's no respect on the other side until the handshake line. You're respectful in the handshake line, but until then, the fuck are these guys? I'm gonna wipe my ass with the maple leaf, not show deference to the league's leading goal scorer. You have no business scoring on me when I'm on the ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, agreed. And I would highly doubt the coaches are going to bring both of them up. I mean, it definitely depends on the Peak injury. If Peak's out, then they might be forced to. I'd be shocked if they change a lot, to be honest. I don't think they should really. I think for a large majority of these first two games, we've dominated them. A couple fluky bounces.
If Peak's healthy, I
personally would look at taking a Shattenkirk or a Grizzly out.
100%.
I would not take both out unless
I agree. If Peak's healthy, I agree with you.
I think you wouldn't replace a Shattenkirk and a Grizzly in my eyes if Peak's also healthy, because I don't think you can take two veterans out like that.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I would love to see them get some playoff time, but I think we're teed up. I think we played well. I think there's a lot to point to that we can still dominate the third game, and we go back to Causeway and see what happens in Toronto.
So all right, so on that point, one of the things that I do want to call out, Linus Ullmark played a hell of a game.
He did. You can't really blame him for
that first period, he had fluky bounces. He had weird stuff going on in the zone. There were turnovers. There was sloppy play. He played out of his mind. This is it for me. This loss is not on Linus Ullmark at all. To me, this does not say, oh, should have started Swayman and should just start Swayman going forward. I think we made the right call going with the rotation. I think you have to expect and understand that we were gonna lose at some point. We were never going 16-0.
No.
We were gonna lose, but that doesn't mean you get away from it. I don't think Linus played bad whatsoever. I don't think he was rebound happy. I don't think he failed to control his crease. I think he had a couple of hell of a saves that, that he was playing out of his mind. For me, this is not we lost because we didn't start Swayman. I agree with you. Swayman starts the next game, but that's because he was going to start the next game no matter what. 2-0 or 1-1, he was going to start. And guess what? Game 4, I better see Linus Ullmark in there because to me, he proved today, hey, motherfuckers, I can play in the playoffs. This was not on him.
Yeah, I would. When I said that, I did not.
I know you weren't. I know you weren't. I just want to make it clear that the pod is behind the goalie tandem, and the pod is standing behind Linus Ullmark after today.
Yeah, we want a full rotation, and if you break it down as a hockey player, first goal off the post. Look, first of all, it was a bounce that kept the puck in the zone. So you could argue the puck shouldn't have even been there for that chance to happen. But then you take it a step further. Austin Matthews does ring the post. It was a good shot through a screen. Nothing Ullmark could do. The only you'd love to see the defense, clear out Domi.
And there was a minute, and I'll have to go back and look at the replay as to who that was, but that we did have a swipe at it and missed. But that's about the only criticism you can have for the whole thing.
That goal was just a fluke to me, so I'm not blaming really anyone on that.
No, nobody. Nope.
Then there's a screen by Shattenkirk on a turnaround slap shot. I mean, can't really blame Ullmark on that one. And then a breakaway, which is 50-50 for a goalie. You can't really blame him. You can't really, if he stands on his head, of course you give him all the credit in the world if he stops that. But I agree with you. There's no reason here to think Ullmark can't be just as good as Swayman. I feel like they're both the same. I want the rotation. I think it's going to go a long way in the playoffs, keeping them both fresh and giving the other team different looks. I'm on board. I know Swayman's had Toronto's number. The only way I'd ever say don't play Ullmark game 4 is if Swayman stands on his head and has a 40-goal shutout. And even then, I'd still maybe go back to Ullmark.
I think for me, I think especially early in the early part and in the middle part of this series, I think you've got to keep the rotation. We can maybe potentially talk if the Bruins win a pivotal game 6 or a game 5 and are trying to close out in game 6 and it's a Swayman in for game 5, maybe you carry him over. We can have that discussion depending on how the game and how the team is looking and playing and feeling and all of that. I really do think that this needs to be a fly by the seat of your pants kind of coaching decision. I think the right call was made today, bringing in Ullmark. I think Ullmark absolutely showed that he is a playoff caliber goalie that honestly 15 other teams would love to have him as opposed to whoever the hell they've got in net. I know, that nobody wants to see Georgiev in the net. They'd much rather have Ullmark over Georgiev. So, there's that. But, it's the one thing I'll say on that last goal. While you're right, that is one of those. It's shitty to say this, but as a goalie, I will. A breakaway like that, if you stand on your head and make the save, you're the absolute hero. If
Yeah.
you don't, it's not your fault whatsoever.
100%.
It was the first time that the Bruins defense got caught sleeping on Austin Matthews.
And even that's like, I don't want to call it a fluke.
Absolutely snoozing.
And I don't want to call it a fluke. I don't know about even snoozing. Like, he caught that, like, forget who was out there on defense. He caught a pass out of midair. I mean, that's when it's tough as a defender, right? Because you don't want to get beat by him. I think whoever it was had their head turned, so they see it and they think that puck's going to the corner, not pull a goddamn Randy Moss out of the sky and pull it. It was a good play.
It was a hell of a play. It was not a missed. McAvoy didn't miss something easy and obvious, but it was one of those. Okay, your star, Toronto's star player made a play when he needed to make a play.
Yeah, on our best defender.
And
if you wrap up McAvoy's entire game, I think there were some other sloppy moments. They didn't cost us goals, but maybe that highlighted some of
it's one of those. It's one of those. Our star player made a play, and David Pastrnak made a play at the end of the first. Their star player made 3. Their star player had 2 assists and a goal. Which also is not, in my opinion, the end of the world. We knew this Toronto team was front heavy, and on the games where their stars acted and played like stars, they were going to be tough to beat. Does it suck, in my opinion, that like this was a winnable game that we allowed them to kind of win? Sure. When they got nothing from anybody but the Stars and Max Domi. But at the end of the day, this is a 3-point game from Austin Matthews. Matthews has a 3-point game, you kind of expect to lose.
100%. 100. And that's what makes this like, I'd never toss out a game. Every game's important, but I'm looking at it and it's like, we really, like, he had a 3-point game and we still had every chance up until the last minute to win that game.
And I guess I just much rather would have had this be the first game in Toronto over the second game in Boston. Like, I'd much rather this happen to make the series 2-1 and be like, well, you know what, that.
And to your point, like I said it when we first started the pod, I'd almost rather get our asses kicked than a game like this. Like,
agreed.
Like, big wake up call. Like, we took it to them game 1. Shit, they can do the same to us. Let's go take care of this in Toronto. This is kind of like, it leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. Right. But I think with the travel and going to Toronto, we'll be fine either way. But
you mentioned the bitter taste, and then like, hey, I'd much rather be blown out, and I agree with you 100%. I'd much rather this have been a reverse, a 5-1 reverse of game 1, because then it's almost you're forced into examining and figuring out what's up. Whereas this one, potentially a coaching staff can point to a few unlucky bounces, a few unlucky like whatevers. And honestly, we're really going to see whether or not Jim Montgomery is worth the salary he's making, because I do think at the end of the day, he made the right choice in going with his netminder. I think he made the right choice in going with his same skaters. I think his in-game management was poor considering how the game was going.
Agreed.
I think there were some very clear opportunities to do things a little differently. Not even things completely foreign, because he's done similar things in the past. So I know that that's back there. He just didn't pull the trigger on it. And whether that was, hey, I'm going to just trust the guys came to me and asked, hey, no matter what happens, stick with what's going. We feel we've got this. That may be the case. We are never going to know that. We're never going to know that. But from what we do know is the head coach is responsible for tactical decisions in game. And in my opinion, he ends up in the sin bin because he fucked up his in-game decision makings in my eyes. I think he made all the right calls pregame.
Yeah.
And then when things got gritty and grippy in the game, he made some costly mistakes. And I'm not saying this in that Toronto's coach made the right moves.
No.
Toronto's superstar showed up. Austin Matthews did a 3-point game. Like, I would love, and we jumped on this too early for me to do this research, but I would love to know how many games this year Austin Matthews scored 3+ points and the Leafs lost. I bet there are few,
agreed.
If any.
Agreed.
I bet there are few.
Agreed. And I think one thing that stood out to me, and I'll have to go back and look through it, but I feel like our fourth line wasn't out there enough. It could have been the game flow, the way the power plays kind of panned out, and they seemed like they were all sprinkled, evenly. So there was never really a rolling of the lines per se. But I just feel like our fourth line, like Boqvist and Beach are hot right now. They're skating with speed. You throw in a Maroon to just get 3 or 4 hits on them. Crazy shit can happen. Crazy shit can happen. I
agree.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it. I'd love to see them out there a little bit more, especially in a game where you're missing a defenseman. Beat the other team down a little bit. Give our defenseman a little bit of a rest. So that's the one call out, other than that last power play where he kind of just went with this ridiculous mix of players. So those were the two that stood out for me for Jim Montgomery, that he could have made better decisions for sure.
Yeah, especially when you're down to 5 defensemen in a game where A, you're winning, B, just has the feel that something fluky or insanely skillful is going to happen for things to change. Roll that fourth line. Get them out there. We don't need to rack up the score. Like, just get them out there and just start bruising the body. Make them not want to cross the zone, the neutral zone with pace. Make them not want to get in deep. I know Pat Maroon, he was saying at the beginning of the game when he was talking to the ESPN guys, and this is honestly I say this every year. It's my biggest driving factor for wanting to move back to Boston is like, I can't get the Nesson feed down here.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with ESPN's bogus Toronto loving bullshit. And when I say Toronto loving, like Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and even though he didn't play, William Nylander are all pantsless in the ESPN studios right now getting sucked off by these guys. They fucking love them.
Yeah.
They love them. So I don't even have that, like, but watching it was like, yeah, no, when you're down in defense, like, roll that fourth line out there, go bruise them up. We don't need to rack up a score. Just go make their lives difficult.
Yeah.
It's almost the flip. Put the best forward pairs with the weaker defense, and put the best defense with your third and fourth line. And honestly, run that Maroon line ragged. They'll skate. Yeah. We know this. We know this about Boqvist and Beecher and Maroon. They will skate. They will go out there. They will skate. They will hit. Just let them do that late in the game when you're winning. If they tie it, okay, now we're in that position.
Yeah, they've impressed me too. I feel like on top of them being the line you're expecting to just kind of go in and beat them down and hold in their zone, I feel like they have the skill that they can score. I mean, obviously Beecher scored the first one, but
they almost had another one today. They almost had another one today.
So I feel like that was a glaring miss that stood out to me. Like and that's like the in-game stuff, right? It's like you don't expect to lose Peak, but when you do, you gotta if Boqvist, Maroon, and Beecher out there more on the 5-on-5, maybe that changes up who's on the penalty kill, right? Like, yes, you can't say, hey, that directly related to that PK, but you're thinking, hey, maybe Carlo's out there on that PK instead of a Shattenkirk for the second goal.
Yep.
Like, all of it plays hand in hand, and I feel like that was a miss, was not running that line kind of early for sure.
And so in his memoir about the 1980 gold medal winning team, legendary coach Herb Brooks talks about what kept him up at night when he was watching all this game film. It wasn't figuring out what his guys were doing right. He picked his team. He put his team in. He knew what they could do right. He knew what best case was. He was constantly trying to prep for, all right, so-and-so goes down on this line in the first period and we're losing. What do I do next? So same guy goes down in the first period and we're winning. What do I do next? This guy goes down in the second period and we're down by 2. What do I do next? Like that for me is where a coach in the playoffs makes their money. You're no longer conditioning these. And I said this in the playoff preview. You're no longer conditioning the guys. You're no longer checking, creating new sexy plays. If they don't already know the plays, they're like, don't start it now. They're like, don't start it now. Your one job is to manage in game in the postseason. Like now is the time for your guy. Like I liken it to like a teacher teaching his class like in AP when you have like the exam that's not done in the classroom. It's by like it's like you're coaching them all year to go take this exam. Once they're out, like there's not like you can't teach them anymore. They're out taking the exam now. Now it's just guiding them through it. Like you're not trying anything crazy new now. Now it is just about, all right, I lose my fourth or fifth defenseman in the middle of the second period. What do I do? And it to me, this was, I never asked that before. I don't know. And for like you and I, that's an okay thing. We're not being paid millions of dollars to coach this team from behind the bench. Because you know what I would have done if I had been there? I'd have gone, oh shit, we're just going to get physical as fuck then, boy. And we're going to see what happens if we do that. And just go with it instead of like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't want to change things too much because what if it screws this up? But what if it doesn't? Like, I don't know. It's like, no. All right, we're down a man. We're going to send the physical guys. Like, hey, sorry, superstars. You're going to have to pick your moments now. Now it's time for the grinders to go be greasers, and they're going to grind this game out, and we're going to see what happens until the next goal. And that wasn't what happened. It was almost like nothing changed, except we were missing a defenseman.
And I feel like if we had to call it a specific moment, I could be wrong here, but I don't think they started the second period, but that's where I would have started them. Pasta goes in, ends the period with the 2-1. Maroon, you're going out first shift to start the second.
Go bloody someone.
Feature.
Go.
I'm pretty sure they didn't start, but that would have been my immediate thought.
Just go plant somebody in the boards.
Bam, go get him. Like, do you know the message that sends? Oh, we got a bonus goal at the end of the first. Bam, we're sending the boys out the fourth line to go just lay some bodies like that. That's the message you should be sending during intermission. So. I don't know what was going through his head, but
the other thing I will say is this, and this has nothing to do with the coaching staff, the players, or anything like that. This is going to the Garden crew.
Yeah,
my cousin was in the arena. My cousin was in TD Garden, and texted me during the first intermission. And I was just as they were gearing up, ready to go. So they've obviously got the clock counting down. Like, hey, there's 2 minutes to go until the second period starts, puck drops or whatever. And the last song that's playing is from the Red Hot fucking Chili Peppers, the ultimate mellow chill band. The garbage, like just. Every song sounds the same, which is fine. Like, they're not a bad band, but they're not exactly one to get you running through a brick wall. And so the Garden, the fans there weren't ready to run through a brick wall when it was time for the puck to drop, which took 4, 5, 6 minutes for them to get re-engaged with what was going on the ice. I don't understand how we don't have somebody that's attuned to what's going on to be like, you know what? The last 4.5 minutes before this period, we are going to have these guys jumping, bouncing, ready to go. Like they want to storm the glass and get on the ice themselves. That is the environment everybody is going to walk out to coming out. Like, no, instead we got Californication. Are you fucking kidding me?
Dude, I mean, honestly, we could probably do a whole episode on what I think of the TD Garden and how they run things, to be honest. I mean, I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, but you're right. Not
that's not the time. That's not the time. No UFC fighter is.
We played
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
We were playing "Living on a Prayer" like at the end of the first, or like halfway through the second. Like that's when you save that song for is the power play in the last 5 minutes. Like that's when you keep in your back pocket, or you play it twice. I mean, shipping up to Boston, perfect strong to play with us going into a power play. I mean, I've said this many times to you. The Celtics is night and day compared to the Bruins. They know how to pump up a crowd. They know how to run a show.
Night and day.
The Bruins, and
night and day.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, when your tickets are through the moon, you only bring a certain crowd to the games, right? You don't get kind of the energy that used to be at the Garden. I mean, there's a lot to say.
And that's unfortunate. You know what? Like local union guys aren't able to attend these games, and in my opinion, that's a fucking crime. It's a goddamn crime.
It's awful.
It's a goddamn crime. This is the people's team. And the people can't go to the team. The people can't see the team. The people are watching from home.
Pay the exorbitant price to go, then you're paying, X amount if you want to have a good time and drink, or
triple if you want to have a good time. Right. It's pay multiple hundreds to get in the door, and then multiple hundreds to get out the door.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we've been thinking about this wrong. Maybe me and you need to take a trip up to Toronto because I remember our money being worth a little bit more up there.
Our money was worth a lot in Montreal. Montreal's a shithole, but Toronto's also, I'm guessing, a shithole. It's been a long time since I've been there, but
this is a good segue. This is a good segue for the end of the game because I think we need to talk about the refs at some point. I feel like that's the last thing I want to talk about, and then I want to move on from this game because I will never blame a game on the refs unless it's 10 penalties to 0 or something like that. Then maybe I will. There were failures on so many levels. The one that stands out to me
for the second game in a row.
The one that clearly stands out is how there was not a 5-on-3 on the end. I mean, the fact that Charlie Coyle gets punched in the face, then throws his hands down, does nothing until 5 minutes later when the guy's still punching him. The fact that is not a 5-on-3, Brad Marchand gets speared in the face. I mean, that could have been a 4-minute penalty. And all we do is get, 2 minutes out of that. Granted, we did nothing with it. I mean, that's a whole other story.
I mean, yeah, but we failed to do our job with what was given, but good God, this is the second game in a row where I've been looking around saying,
there was a trip on Maroon. There was a trip on, I want to say, a Geeky or a Beecher somewhere at the blue line. There were quite a few that were ridiculous at this point.
It's getting egregious. And it's not just these last 2 games. We've been talking about this now for the last 16 games. We've been watching as it's come. Let's pull penalties out of it. For years, we watched Patrice Bergeron be the best face-off center in the league. And then in the playoffs, got tossed more than anybody.
Yeah.
That same shit is happening. Our guys are going in there. It is quite clearly a delay or a false start on Toronto, on Austin fucking pedophile Stash Matthews. And it's us that's getting thrown out. First time, not even all right, hey boys, let's try again. It's just first time. Matthews today, distinctly in the first period, comes all the way across with his right skate, comes all the way across the hashes. They threw out Coyle.
Yeah, I don't know. That's ridiculous.
It's not even the penalties anymore. It's not even the penalties, which is why I'm looking at it, I'm with you. I'm trying really hard not to blame it on the refs. And honestly, you can't blame it on the refs.
We had so many chances to make it a game.
We had our chances.
Yeah,
we had our chances. It is not blame on that. But I almost feel like we're used to it in baseball when you get those highlights every 3 days of Angel Hernandez just biffing 10 calls in a game, and you're like, how the fuck does this guy have a job?
Yeah,
it's getting to that
point.
point.
The MLB is actually shocking.
Hey, I wish I was a part of the umpires union. If you had told me that job security was that strong, I'd have been training at 13 years old.
Agreed.
I'd just been like, fuck playing. I'm going to be an ump. Like, that job security is legendary.
Yeah.
Legendary. But we're getting to the same point where it's like, what did you call on Coyle? You called rough. Like, if this is a new thing that's being tested in soccer in Europe.
If you call roughing on Coyle, let's just be clear though. If you call roughing on Coyle after he got punched in the face, then that guy should get 1 for punching him in the face and two for roughing. The exact same amount of roughing that Coyle did. So either way you slice it, it still should be 1.
So they're testing this out in soccer in Europe, where the referees' reports, whether it's yellow cards, decisions not to give yellow cards, red cards, decision not to give red, whatever it is, are being made public. Like they write their report at the end of every game, and it's made public. So there's some accountability.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Toronto. And by Toronto, I mean the Department of Player Safety and the Referees Commission. What is your rationale for giving? Like, I just want to know. I just want to know what you saw. Because if what you saw or what you write down and say, this is what I saw, sign my name at the bottom, if what that was is not what the video shows, then you should be held accountable. I'm sorry. If I'm at my job and I say, let's say I work, making sandwiches. And I make a sandwich and I pocket it, put it in my pocket, and I take it home. And the owner goes, did you take that home? And I go, no. And the camera goes, but you did. I should be held accountable for that. I said 100%. No. I said no. My opportunity to be like, shit, yeah, I did. I don't know. It was the heat of the moment. I was really hungry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's one thing. Me saying, I absolutely did not sign my name, not me. And the camera goes, To me, you got to be held accountable. Like, it's the lack of accountability. In every other job in this, like, there's some accountability. Except in refereeing in professional sports, where, I'm sorry, Mom, I really am, Mom. But, like, referees hide behind it's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it, but it's tough. I don't give a flying fuck. You know what's a tough job? Fighting a war. You know what happens if you commit a war crime while fighting a war? You go to prison for the rest of your life. You don't get to say, it was tough.
If it's a tough job, then I know a lot of computers that can monitor
that
can monitor the last 50 years of gameplay. Say this ref called that a penalty, didn't call that, he did call that. Take all the statistics, get it down to the 99th percentile and say, that's a penalty, that isn't. That puck went in the net, that didn't. So if the refs want to complain about their job being hard and getting paid $200,000 to go to hockey games, they can keep doing that. But I thought this was atrocious. Your points about soccer, I've seen them starting to review VAR on the actual cards themselves and pull cards away because they call back. One, I do not know why that's a thing. Second point you made is, honestly, I'm actually shocked that I didn't think about that. The player safety. You know how anytime someone gets suspended, they do a full audit, a full review, and thankfully they release that to the public now and tell us why they were thinking that and what. Now, I see that, and half the time I'm like, still fucking bullshit, but at least they're making it public. I would love for the refs at the end of the game to watch that in front of us as fans and go, that's why I called that a penalty.
Right.
There's no way the ref's going to watch that back and say Coyle deserves the same amount as this guy that just punched him in the face.
And if they do, there needs to be a third party, a third person involved that goes,
yeah,
well, that's ridiculous. Like, and all right, so we got some comments. Sportsnut, Hawkeye's always first. Talking exactly about this, about refs in back-to-back games and not being held accountable. And I gotta say, it's that accountability I think that we're all just looking for. We're looking for just accountability, whether or not right, wrong, whatever. Like, I understand, and I also think it hurts the integrity of the game if afterwards they're like, fuck, we screwed that up. shouldn't have been. The answer cannot be the game is null and void, replay the game. I get why that's not the answer.
Yeah.
But these referees should be held accountable, and there should be other people that are like, hey, you biff that? You're going to take a seat, and you're not going to do that. Like, at any other job, when you biff it that bad, you get slapped on the wrist, you get put in timeout, you don't get to do your job for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
there's no way, like the hiding behind well, this is a really tough job. We're doing this on the fly. You're not doing it on the fly anymore. You're not doing it on the fly. You have reviews. Toronto's initiating reviews. Coaches are challenging. But at the end of the day, even on your on the fly stuff, I want to hear what you think you heard. Because if there's some wiggle room, I may look at it and be like, all right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. I could see how maybe you saw that from that angle. The Coyle one is atrocious because it's after the whistle. We've got two referees involved.
Yeah.
He gets hit in the face. He deliberately puts his hands down and starts looking around. Is like, we all saw that, right? And then he gets hit again.
Yeah. I mean,
what is any of them seeing?
It was egregious. And I like the point you make because I will say now that we have replay, we get to see it from every angle. In some instances, a ref might be blind to something we think he saw, right? So, like, that's where you'd like to hear his interpretation. You know, I thought I couldn't really see it around this guy that was in front of me, and that's why I made the call. Great. Held accountable. He couldn't see it. Like, that makes sense. But some of this is ridiculous. I also thought one that was fucking outrageous was the too many men when our guy got pushed.
Our guy's getting held on the ice! Like, he's trying to get like, are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, at the end of the day, just call a penalty and a whistle and interference on both. Don't then give us a penalty for, like, that one was outrageous to me. Like, calling too many men on our guy getting pushed out of the bench that he's getting into, that was nutty. I've never seen that, honestly.
No, that's absolutely atrocious. It's one of those.
So literally though, if they watched him push him over there and was able to call the too many men, how is he able to push him over there with the puck not being on that person's stick? That is interference.
To me, that's interference.
And I'm not saying just give us the call. Call them both so that the play's dead and we're not getting an extra too many. Like, we got fucked on a too many men because of, like, that didn't make any sense.
No,
that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on that is, you know, and again, and I understand that I bring up soccer a lot. It happens to be one of my absolute favorite sports to watch, and referee culture and referee rules and all that have been going through some really mega changes in the last 5-10 years that I think kind of highlights some other things. All right, the referees on the ice didn't see it, didn't see X, Y, or Z or whatever. ESPN made a very pointed argument today to say Toronto sees everything. So, all right, your referee didn't see it? Well, there's a commercial break that's going on right now while you're sorting out these penalties. Just get it right. Just get it right. Like when in soccer nowadays, a guy punches somebody behind the play. The ref's not looking because it's way behind the play, but a guy punches somebody in the face. Guy's on the floor flailing like he just lost his head instead of just, took a punch. So he's being a little bit of a bitch, but whatever. The referee didn't see it. 5 years ago, wouldn't have been a call, period. It would have just been like, I don't know what the fuck happened to that guy, why he's on the floor bleeding, but like he is now. I don't know. Nowadays, you get the little buzz in your ear. Hey, go to the monitor. Number 18 just punched number 10 in the face while you weren't looking. Oh, he sure did. That's a red card. Like, hey, I know that you counted 6 men on the ice there for the Bruins, but what happened was he got WWE chokeslammed out of his bench onto the ice. Not his fault. Shouldn't be called for it. Like, it wouldn't take up any time. It wouldn't slow the game down. It wouldn't do jack shit. It would just get it the fuck right. And I'm so sick of the playoffs just not being right. Like, I understand a little bit of human error, but this is ridiculous.
And that brings up another one. I truly didn't see enough of it to know because there was so much going on. But when the Coyle one happened and Bertuzzi hit Marchand in the face, I didn't really get a clear picture of like how bad that was. But if he egregiously hit him in the face with his stick, that's supposed to be a 4-minute penalty for my
Was it the face or was it the leg?
That's where I don't know. Like, honestly, I was paying more attention to the Coyle that I didn't really see a good shot of that. So if it was the leg,
I think it was the leg.
I thought it was the
and
face.
He went down kind of holding his face. I think it was the leg.
All
I think it was, but either way, like, it should have been 3 to them, 1 to us, 2-man advantage. Yeah, it should have been.
No matter which way you slice that,
it should have been. It should have been the what you want to call it, roughing or double roughing or cross check or what to the face. Honestly, it should have been 2-0. It should have been the roughing and the slash. Coyle didn't do shit. Marchand didn't do shit. It should have been 5-on-3 from there.
Yeah, I mean, no matter which way you slice it, it's a 5-on-3. But
it's one of those but this is 2 games in a row now. 2 games in a row now. The refs have made a lot of questionable calls that are going against the black and gold. And if you go outside of the playoffs, it's been like 3 straight weeks of, wait a minute, Marchand just got speared there, no call. That's knee to knee, no call. That's a high, no call.
Yeah,
like we've been dealing with that a lot, and
it goes back to the first too. You said, hey, we could have buried him in the first 10 minutes. I felt like we played well. Like, if you're burying a team, and like I said, 3 of them probably would have called 1 all together in a playoff game like that. But that could be the one power play that gets us that first goal right off the bat, right? Like that, and we deserved it. We were outworking them at the time. We were outplaying them. We were outskating them. So to let 3 calls go, in my perspective, right off the bat, yeah, we got one on the blatant one where some guy cross-checked one after the whistle. Like, that's, of all of them, that's the one that's like, I want the calls that are on the ice when we're working hard to deserve the penalties.
Yeah.
So, like, to your point, yeah, it's like our guys must feel like, hey, we're working our ass off. We're doing everything that they're doing, but we're not getting the calls. So
yeah, it's one of those. The
couple trips
one,
tonight too.
The Coyle one absolutely frustrates me because it's one of those. He did all the right things. He took a shot after the whistle, didn't respond
immediately until.
Well, yeah. Right, no, right. He took it and was like, somebody saw that, right? Somebody saw that. Like, his first instinct wasn't, all right, I'm going at it. His first instinct was, wow, that's a penalty. My team's going to get an advantage out of this. And then to be called on roughing. The only reason we got a penalty out of that, or a power play out of that to begin with, is because Tyler Bertuzzi did something to somebody else. Coyle earned a power play on his own by taking a late hit to the face and not being like, I'm going to respond in anger. His response was,
I'd love to hear the refs
for the team. And that's why, to your point, I need to hear from the refs. Like, what did you hear?
I'd love to hear the refs, because do you think
how loud can I boo you?
Let me ask you this. Do you think after Coyle got hit in the face, if they both skated their separate ways, there was none of that little tussling at the end, do you think we would have been on a power play? Like before the Marchand?
No. They were not going to call shit. They weren't going to call shit.
I thought they did. I don't think they
did. I don't think they did. For me, the ref that immediately skates in separates them and points to both of them. Coyle hasn't done shit. They were both, it was going to be a 4-on-4. The ref, from what I saw, immediately skates in and does like this for both of them. Even
See,
though Coyle's standing there,
I saw it differently. I saw one hand in the corner go up. The second Coyle got punched, which I said, "Bam, we're on a power play." Which is why then when they kept tussling, I thought they got Coyle on the back end of that, which makes it even more frustrating in my eyes. So I'll have to rewatch that. I mean, either way, whatever way you slice it, it should have been a 5-on-3. But
no, it was bad. I've got issues with the way that this team's been refereed the last 2-3 months. And just I don't know if it's because we're Boston or what, but there's no question about it when you listen to the pregame or any of the postgame stuff that's being on national television. I only have the opportunity now to watch Boston stuff on national television, so I only get to hear ESPN or TBS or ABC or whatever do their super, the league is great and all that bullshit. And all I get to hear is PK Subban talking about how Boston's the devil and everybody should be like whatever. So I just, it's been tough watching because I know what a Penley looks like. I know what other team, because I watch all the other hockey. You and I both, we watch all the other hockey. Like we're not just Bruins and then nothing. Like we're watching all the other hockey. We're watching all of this shit that's going down in all the other series and going like, wow, that wasn't called that way in our game. Wow, that wasn't called that way there. Wow, they really want Vegas to win, huh? Wow, Winnipeg's just going to go through here based purely on referee play, huh? Like,
yeah.
But I don't know. It's
yeah. And speaking of watching other games, while we were jumping on, Carolina came back against the Islanders, beat them 5-3. So I mean, that's couple interesting things to look out for there. I all in all though, I'm yeah, they beat them 5-3. I'll have to watch the highlights on that, but I think they were down
3-5-3. They were down 3-0.
3-0.
3-0 in the second.
And I think I looked go like halfway through the third, and they were down 3-1 still. So they must have rallied real late. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep shit talking the refs. I hope that we come out, game 3. Obviously in Toronto, I feel like we're gonna go in there. We're gonna have a hell of a game, and we're gonna see the Bruins we're used to seeing. So I'm not worried. I think we take 2 in Toronto and we come back to Boston and get the job done. Luckily,
you're calling Bruins in 5.
I have Bruins in 5. I think you and your father called Bruins in 6. If I'm not mistaken. You might have had 5 too. I can't remember, but I know I said 5.
I believe I had 5.
I'm sticking to 5.
I have Bruins in 5, my guy.
All right,
we are going Bruins in 5, which means we got to get both in Toronto.
No more losses.
I think we're going to keep on the goalie tandem. I think that we are a better team. Yeah. I think we're a better locker room. I just think we're better.
For large portions of that game, we dominated them. I'm still not worried about it at all. I feel like it was kind of a fluky game. Like we should.
There were some weird bounces. There were some weird bounces. There were some weird bounces, some weird calls, and we still should have won. So you know what? It's one of those. The Chiefs losing to the Bills on a non-call pass interference, whatever it was. Like you look at that and you're like, well, that was some fucking bullshit. We didn't deserve to lose that. I don't think we deserve to lose this game. I think you're right. I think we come back in Toronto on Wednesday and I think we kick the crap out of them. And I can't wait to be here Wednesday night with you talking about what should be a Bruins victory.
I agree, and I will call not to call it stats at the last minute, but Toronto It's the first time they've scored in the first period against us was tonight. That's the recipe to me. Don't let them score in the first period on Wednesday. Come out, put a goal in the net in the first period. Don't let them score, and we're off to the races. That's the recipe. The rest will take care of itself. So, I mean, yes, tonight's was a fluke, but I feel like we were well on our way to getting a 1-0 start anyway.
Yep.
And we all know 2-0 start.
And we all know Toronto's crowd, Toronto's fans are going to be nervous and shitting their pants when we skate out on the ice. You know, pray to God that we don't get that first goal. If we get that first goal, I think it's game over. I think that building collapses. The fan fest outside dies. Like, we come in there.
There's way more pressure on Toronto to win.
100%.
There always was.
100%.
Especially because we have an extra game at home, guaranteed.
The Garden is always behind the boys. Toronto will burn their city down for the 8th year in a row. So I agree with you. You and I mean, we'll talk tomorrow after we rewatch the game and go through some of our thoughts and things like that. But I appreciate you jumping on tonight to recap the game live. Didn't go the way we wanted, but we were never going to win.
Thank you for everyone staying up late with us as well.
Yep. We will see you all. We will see you all on Wednesday. Y'all want to be a part of the pod? Shoot us a message on Instagram or Twitter. We will try and include you as much as possible. Until then, we will see you guys Wednesday. This is the Kings of Causeway, and we are out.